Hello everyone, good morning. Thanks for joining the JIRA for Resource and Project Management webinar. We're recording this session and we'll submit a link to the recording over the next few days. Just a quick note, our next webinar, Effective Security and Permissions Management for JIRA, is planned for July 10th at 11 a.m. Also, as we go through the webinar, if you have questions, please use a questions utility in the GoToWebinar control panel. We'll queue them up and answer them towards the end of the session. Just want to do some quick introductions. On the phone today, there's a few of us from Profields Consulting, including Christopher Pepe. Christopher heads up our Alaskan practice and is the brains behind this webinar. He's been working with the Alaskan product since 2004, so he's got a tremendous amount of experience with the products. Also on the phone is myself, Christian Lane, founder of Profields Consulting, and Shayla Sander. Shayla helps to coordinate these webinars amongst many, many other business development activities. So I want to give you some background on Profields Consulting. We're coming up on our 5th anniversary as Alaskan Expert Partners. This is in July, and we most recently became one of 4 U.S. enterprise expert partners in October of 2012. We're very focused in the Alaskan space. Over 95% of our projects are Alaskan related. We have over 100 clients across the country, ranging from 20-person companies to Fortune 20 type companies in a span of industries, including technology, automotive, electric utilities, commercial arts, oil and gas, publishing, banking and finance, medical and pharmaceuticals, telephony, security, and on and on. So we help our clients with process-centric technology solutions that facilitate traditional business process management, IT service management based on IDLE, and software development life cycles. In the SDLC space, we're helping clients transition from traditional waterfall to Agile. So whatever widgets you produce, we help improve the quality of those widgets and increase the throughput at the lowest cost. We support our clients in all facets of the Alaskan product suite and build methodologies and solutions across the entire suite. A lot of what we do is actually build solutions that incorporate your processes into the technology to facilitate repeatability and value. We also help with licensing, integrations, plugin development, and so on. So let's turn things over to Chris for now. He's going to lead us through the webinar.
So today I'm pretty happy to talk to you about using JIRA for resource and project management. We all know and love JIRA as a software development tool, but we've leveraged it for a lot of other purposes as well, and it's really well suited to those. Atlassian has really been pushing the software engineering process into new territories for a while now, and in a large respect, it has enabled us to push business processes into new places as well. Using JIRA as well as the rest of the platform, we're able to facilitate collaboration, execution, and organization around project management. One thing I hope you take out of today is that while project management can take many different shapes, there are lots of different styles and techniques and ways of doing it. In short, it's always encompassing some project life cycle, and really it comes down to the management of time, scope, and budget. Within the project itself, there are myriad tasks, activities, issues, risks, dependencies, etc. And they all collectively affect the project in positive and negative ways. So we've helped a number of our clients with their project management capabilities within JIRA, as well as a host of marketplace add-ons. So I wanted to go through some of the things that are available to us, both in the tool itself, as well as some of the add-ons that are available in the marketplace. Now, there are a ton of add-ons in the marketplace to help you with project management within JIRA, to help you tailor JIRA to exactly the tool that your company needs. We don't have time to go over all of them today, so we just picked out a couple that we know and love, but this is by no means a comprehensive list. So I would encourage you to go onto the marketplace, look at some of the other things that are available, evaluate those add-ons, and try them in your organization. And if you're looking for help, reach out to an expert group like us to help you get them lined up and dialed in more quickly. So right out of the box, JIRA has excellent dashboarding capabilities, and there's 2 different places we're going to look at dashboards. So the first one is the project dashboard, that just by defining a JIRA project, you automatically get this awesome set of dashboards that slice and dice your project to show you what's going on in it. And then different add-ons that you install also insert other project level dashboards into that display. And then there's the main dashboarding system that when you first log into JIRA, you get presented with the system dashboard, and you can create your own custom dashboards. And you can put any number of gadgets that you want on there. And these little gadgets are little reports, little views into your JIRA data, and you can even incorporate other systems into them as well. So you can put in, little mini issue navigators with filter results. There are a number of different chart types, and again, different add-ons that you install will give you other gadgets that you can put into the dashboards. That allows you to build comprehensive views for whatever it is that you're looking at in JIRA. And you can have as many dashboards as you like. So if you wear a lot of hats in the company, if you want to be down in the minutia and actually knowing the details of what's happening, you can look at that. If you want to be much higher level, you can build a different dashboard to just show you some charts and graphs so you can get a visual representation of kind of where everything is without having to drill down into the details. We're also going to take a look at Greenhopper, which is the Agile add-on for JIRA. Your Scrum and Kanban development teams probably already know and love Greenhopper. We've had a lot of success with our less technical clients using Greenhopper as well, because it's just a wonderful user interface that sits on top of JIRA. It gives you a nice drag and drop interface. It lets you look at where all of your different tickets are. It just has a lot of visual information in very little space, so it conveys a lot of information very quickly and easily. And a lot of people like that. There are a number of Gantt Chart add-ons that are available in the marketplace. We're just going to look at one today, but there are other ones that are there as well. So figure out which one you like and go with that. There's another one called Profields, which gives us project level fields, which has been something that people in the community have wanted for a really long time. JIRA has a really excellent custom field implementation that allows you to create any kind of field type that you want and attach it to the issues themselves, the actual tasks or tickets in the system. But we've never really been able to aggregate all that information and roll it up at the project level or store other information at the project level. So Profields allows us to do that. And then Tempo gives us advanced time tracking. So it lets us dive deeper into the time that we've actually logged against our tickets, against our tasks, as well as have some resource planning capabilities today. Tempo is also coming out with 2 new products to give you better resource planning, better resource allocation, as well as project budget management as well. And there's another one that I stumbled across relatively recently that I don't have a lot of experience with, but it looks really exciting. So I put it on this list, even though we're not going to actively look at it in the kind of demo portion of this. But the Activity Timeline Resource Planning Dashboard has a really nice looking UI. It looks like it does a lot of things. The way that it reads up it looks very interesting. So I'm definitely going to go look into that a little bit more, and I'd encourage you to go look at that as well as just see what else is on the marketplace that fits what your company needs. So before we jump over to the actual over to JIRA and look at what we're going to look at today, I wanted to introduce to you the company that we're going to be profiling. So this company has an expense management platform that exists out in the cloud, and they strive to be a flexible tool to meet all of your expense management needs. They have a mobile and a web application to accomplish this. So when people are out in the field and they're traveling for work, the mobile app allows you to take pictures of your receipts and submit them that way, check on your previously submitted expenses and reimbursements and things like that. And then the web application allows you to do everything else. It's got invoicing and billing and reporting and all the other stuff that your enterprise would need for expense management. They're a relatively large company. They have multiple development centers, multiple business centers. They're scattered across time zones across the globe. And they're able to use the Atlassian suite to effectively stay in contact with each other and work asynchronously, because all of the tools really facilitate collaboration even when you are geographically or temporarily scattered. So it's a big company, but we're only going to focus on a couple of people in it. So first up is Linda, who is our customer advocate. She really understands what our customers' needs and what they value, what they want to see out of the product. So she spends a lot of time working with them to gather their needs and condense them down into descriptive user stories. She does a lot in Confluence, collaborating with our customers, sharing ideas and kind of building out what it is that they're looking for. And then she takes this information, puts it into JIRA via Greenhopper, and she can report off that as well to see where these particular new feature requests are in the pipeline, as well as participate in the kind of new project approval process that we'll be looking through. So next up is Sam, who is our jovial VP of Sales. He is a fun-loving guy who is confident that his development teams are working on the right features and that they're going to be delivering the features that they have promised. He's able to keep tabs on current sprints, on planned features by looking at the roadmap, as well as tell where the teams are having problems, so that he can use that with his sales team to help communicate that and improve the sales cycle. Evan is our developer. He's really good at what he does, and he's very happy to be at a company that is allowing him to work the way that he wants to work. JIRA and Greenhopper are kind of his two best friends in the world. They allow him to keep all of his tasks organized so he knows actually what he's working on. They also give him the ability to report back up to his management team as to what it is he's working on, where he's having problems. And all of this is just part of his daily routine. Just by working on his tickets, all of this reporting information boils back up to the top. So he uses the other tools that we're not really going to look at today, but they're very happy with the Git flow workflow that they're using in Stash. They're also using Bamboo for continuous integration, keep all of their code built, and they also use it for part of their release management process. And then, of course, Fisheye and Crucible for when they need to do really deep dive, really intense code reviews. They use Crucible for that. And when they need to do lightweight code reviews, they're just using pull requests and Stash for smaller features. And then finally, we have Saul, who is the director of engineering. Saul spends a lot of time on the road. He is actually one of the use cases for why this company came into being. He's constantly traveling around. He's got a lot of itineraries to manage. He racks up lots of expenses. And he just loves the mobile experience. So now with JIRA's new mobile interface and Confluence's existing one, when he's on the road, he has an easy time just staying on his smartphone, figuring out what is going on, and keeping in touch with all of his development teams and the issues that they're having. So let's switch over and start taking a look at some of these things. We're going to start off with Greenhopper, which is, again, the Agile implementation. We have two different projects that we're going to look at in JIRA today. One of them is playing double duty. We use it for new project requests. So these can be new features, small bodies of work, or they can be very large implementations that we need to undertake. So first we have this approval process that new development needs to go through before it actually gets blessed for development and can go off and be created. In this same project, we are also tracking small development efforts. So things that a single development team can work on that are maybe less than 50K and will only take a few months to implement. We can track these via this project as well. And in this case, we're actually using a JIRA ticket to encapsulate the project work itself. So all of the subtasks that we created off of that, all of the project information would live within this JIRA ticket. Now for larger bodies of work, we have a different project that we're going to use. Within that, we're using Profields to track those kind of project level fields, and all of the tasks that we want to create will end up underneath that. So we'll be using versions to set our milestones, and then we will be creating tasks within each of those versions to create our roadmap. So first, just looking at our project approval process, this is the sort of place that Linda would come in. So she would come in here and create new features. And we have, there's nice things in Greenhopper, like you can still get all of the ticket information. You get all of the depth of the information that you're able to capture within a JIRA issue without having to leave Greenhopper. So just by clicking on the ticket, that opens up this detail view over here, and we can see all the different things that are related to this new project request. So she can come in here and look at, for project requests that she has made in the past, where are they in their process? Here we can see two that she has gotten all the way to the review process. So she's intimately involved in the analysis and estimation process, the review process, and so on. And then these boards are highly configurable. So the way that we have this one set up, you have the ability to either approve or reject a new project request at any point. So if we used our quick filters to hide everything except ones that we've rejected in the past, we can see things that we have decided not to do for whatever reason. So I was just on CNET this morning, and I noticed that Palm is coming out with a new operating system in the next couple months that's really targeted towards the smartphone market, and they're really trying to, with new devices in this new OS, to compete with BlackBerry, Android, and iOS devices. So previously we had decided there just wasn't enough of a market there. We didn't want to port our platform over to Palm, but now that they have this new thing coming out, this may be something that we want to reassess. So we can just move this ticket back over. And now we can run it through our approval process again, and we can reassess, is this something that we want to do? After things have actually been approved, and they end up on our, so once things have been approved, what we do at that point is, if it's a small body of work, what we do is create a project task for it. So now this is going to encapsulate everything for this particular project. And now it has a simple life cycle that it moves through here. You can see this is a different life cycle. We have a different set of columns than we did for our project approval process. Greenhopper is very flexible. It allows us to have as many processes as we want. We can actually even map them all into the same workflow. And there's a lot of configuration options there that we won't cover in any more depth than that. But here, what our process is, once a piece of work has been approved, what we do is we create a new project for it, and then we link it back to the original ticket that sparked this work. So now we can go back and we can look at what were the results of the analysis, what were the things that we decided, what were the reasons that we chose to actually undertake this work. So we have that relationship always preserved just through a simple issue link. And then we can see we have a few other issue links as well, because this body of work, the API, is a dependency for a couple of other things that we're working on. And similarly, we can move these things through their workflow just by picking up the tickets and dragging and dropping them. Now, living in the Agile world, we will often take things to be the thing at the top is the most important. So one of the ways that we can manage all the different tasks that we're working on is just simply by ranking them. So by moving one thing on top of another thing, it becomes more important, and that's the thing that we will work on next. So that's one of the project management techniques that you can adopt from Agile that Greenhopper makes very easy for us. I'm going to switch over to one last board, and then we will go over to the rest of JIRA as well. So I want this project work board. So again, here we have a lot of tasks in this column. And some of these things are probably more important than other ones. We're actually managing this with our Gantt Chart plugin and some other things. So in this particular case, if we were just using the board, or if our teams that are using rapid boards want to be able to order things, they can do that as well. So here we are. Here we actually have the tasks and subtasks. Let me hide this top swim lane, and we can see that. So here we have an actual project implementation, and we can see that our development team has started decomposing this down into the different subtasks that need to be accomplished in order for us to finish this project work. Because we're really only looking at high-level things today, I can just go hide those subtasks. And I don't see them anymore, so now I can just look at the project-level things as well. So using all the different features of the rapid board by having these different swim lanes. So here we have separated out our expense scope platform issues from our small project issues by using quick filters, by changing the columns that we're using in our workflow. We can actually wrap a lot of work into a single board. You're also likely to have a number of different boards looking at similar sets of tickets because different people want to look at them. The management is going to want to look at just as these high-level things, whereas the development teams are probably going to actually have Scrum boards, and they're going to be decomposing these project-level or epic-level kind of tickets down into much smaller actual technical tasks that they're working on. One of the nice things about doing all this project management in JIRA is all the information is right there at your fingertips. You can very easily drill down to whatever low level you want to drill down to, but you don't really have to. You can aggregate everything and just look at it at a high level. So the the Agile methodologies are a really nice new approach to project management. They're really effective for small development teams as well as larger project management as well. It's been a really interesting thing to watch Agile grow up and learn more and more about these new styles of project management. So now I want to switch over and look at some of the other things. So for the rest of this, we'll basically be looking at built-in JIRA features that have these add-ons integrated in them. One of the really nice things about the kind of new stable APIs that Atlassian's been coming out with in the last few releases is that it's made it much easier for third-party add-on developers to really tightly integrate their products with JIRA itself, so that you don't really necessarily even know that you're looking at add-on functionality. It just feels like the product. And all of these add-ons do that really well, we feel like. So first off, we have this summary page. And what we're looking at right now is our project dashboard. I actually want to switch over to this project if you'll bear with me. So this summary page is showing us things like what the just generic information about this particular project is. We have our activity stream, so we can see who is doing what, who is creating what types of tickets and changing things. We have versions in this project, so we can see what our different versions are, and we have our 30-day summary. There are a number of reports that come bundled with JIRA, so all you have to do is just come in here and click on these, and you'll get these really nice reports to help you stay on top of what's happening. This Project Fields tab, this comes out of Profields. So this allows us to define project-level fields. This is actually not the newest version of Profields. The newest version allows you to also order these fields however you want, so you can set this display to fit what you would like. Like I would like my two budget numbers to actually be right on top of each other so I can see them more easily. The newest version lets you do that. So we have a number of different fields that are in here, and they have various types. So the first two are these remaining work and logged work. So here we can look at the cumulative information that's stored in all of the JIRA tickets that are in this project. So across all the different tasks that we have defined, how much time has been estimated that needs to be done on them and how much time has been logged against them. So you can see that we still have quite a bit of work to do before we get to the end of this product completion, but we've already started doing a little bit of work. Similarly, we have our estimated budget and our burned budget, and this is also being aggregated out of the tasks themselves. So with each of our project requests, one of the fields that we have in there is an estimated budget of what you think it would take to implement this feature or do this project. So this estimated budget field is actually aggregating all of those estimated budgets for all of our approved work. So we know that we think it's going to take not quite 300K to get all of this stuff done. And then our burn budget is looking at a different field in which we are actually tracking actual expenses and actual money that we've spent out. So we've already spent about a third of our budget on this project, and we can kind of keep an eye on that. Over time, we can monitor the burn rate, and we can see about how much farther we have to go. The project status that we have, this is actually just a list type. So we can define any number of entries that we want into it, and this allows us to give our project somewhat of a workflow as well. One of the really nice things about this project status field is that you can integrate it into your actual JIRA workflows. So you can control the flow of the tickets in your project based on what the project status is. So if you put it into a closed state or an on-hold state, you can use that information to then determine what people are and are not allowed to do. Perhaps you can't approve any work on a project that's on hold, something like that. JIRA gives us a project lead. In this case, we have Saul, our engineering manager, as our project lead, and Saul is responsible for all the actual development and the actual delivery of the work. But Sam, our VP of sales, is actually really the champion for this platform. He is kind of the evangelist out in the community to get people excited about it and kind of build the buzz around it. So we're tracking that information here as well. It's also, just one last thing I'll note about Profields is that just like JIRA, it is transactional. So it'll keep track of all of the historical states of what all of the fields were. So as you're changing the values of the project fields themselves, their historical states are still going to be captured. So just like JIRA does, it's going to tell you when it happened, who did it, what it changed to and from. So here you can see we used to track our budgets via just a simple number field where we were just entering a number manually. And then we switched over to this cumulative field because it allowed us to take information that was already in our tasks and just aggregate it and keep track of it. So that saves us work, and that's something that we like to do. This issues one is also built into JIRA, and it's just one that I really like, so I wanted to show it to you just very briefly. But it takes, again, all the different tasks that you have in the project, and it breaks them down by their common attributes like priority and assignee and issue type and status, where it is in its workflow, and so on. Because we are using versions in this, we automatically get a roadmap. Just by using versions and putting tickets into different versions, you automatically get this roadmap. The Gantt Chart add-on that we are using adds 2 tabs, and here it adds this Gantt Chart tab as well as a resource planning tab. So we'll take a look at both of those. Here what it's doing is it's taking our project itself that we're in, and then it's breaking down by all of our versions. So that's the version is analogous to a milestone in this case, and then each of the individual tasks themselves. So we're able to come in here, we're able to schedule them out. This has a really nice clickable interface, so you can actually drag and drop these things. You can move them around. There's the menu list, so you can take kind of all the standard JIRA actions as well as some of the more Gantt-specific actions. And you can do that all right from this embedded report right here. We have things like issue dependencies. So this task can't start until this one's completed. So if we change when this task ends, then the next one's start date will move accordingly. Here we have these 2 pegged as starting at the same time. Similarly, this final implementation task right here, actually be able to submit a receipt via thought. We can't do that until we get the groundwork in place. We have other tasks that it depends on. So we have all these dependency chains set up directly via this Gantt Chart add-on. That way we can help manage these tasks. It'll also keep track of when we originally estimated that we were going to do this work as opposed to when we're actually doing it now. And it does a number of other powerful things like that. 2 other nice things to know is that these buttons right here will allow you to export this Gantt chart either to project or to PowerPoint. So you can take this, export it, pull it out of Microsoft Project, and look at it from there. I also believe that that this plugin will allow you to import a project file into JIRA. But what is definitely true is that there's another add-on that will talk to Project Server, and it's actually more of a connector. So as opposed to this that lives entirely in JIRA, the Project Connector will allow you to still use Microsoft Project and keep it in sync with JIRA. That way the tasks that are created in Project get mapped over into JIRA, and when either one of them is updated, the change is reflected in both systems. So the other thing that you get with this particular Gantt chart add-on is a resource planning tab. So here we have our 2 different resources that have things allocated to them, and we have that information rolled up. And we can drill down into it and get to the specific work that they are allocated on. In this rolled up version, what we can see is basically what their burn rates need to be. So for the amount of work that's allocated to them and the amount of time that's allocated on that work, in this case, Saul needs to be doing 3.2 hours of work a day, right, and gets weekends off because we're nice like that. And here, continuing to burn down 3.2 hours a day in order to actually finish this task on time. Now here, because the way we have our configuration set up, we have 8-hour work days, and Saul is over allocated, which is why this is showing up in red. So here, 8.3 hours, 11.5 hours a day. So this is telling us that Saul is over allocated. Either we need to go and shift that burden to other people to spread it out across the team, or Saul just has to take one for the team so that we can get this work done on time. We've also got this little warning right here, which if I hover over it, will tell me that I've got a misconfiguration, right? I have a kind of a nonsensical state. I've got stuff happening that doesn't really make any logical sense. So again, I can drill down into it as much as I want. I still have access to all of the menus, but I can roll it all up as well and see what my allocation looks like. Let's see, I think I'm going to skip the rest of these. There's good information that's in all the rest of these tabs as well in the project dashboards, but I want to make sure we save time for the other couple things that we're going to look at. So again, you get all of this for free just by creating a project in JIRA, so that's really nice. You don't have to do anything to create any of these dashboards. So now let's jump over into Tempo and look at some of the things that it's capable of doing to us. And again, this is just a relatively simple example of what you can do with Tempo. It's a very powerful time tracking add-on for JIRA. There's a lot of different reporting capabilities, so you have a lot of different views that you can look at your data in as well. So right now what we're looking at is a project timesheet. So for all the different resources that have issues assigned to them within that project, we can look at what their allocation is, what time we have planned for them, what time they've actually logged, and so on. So here, taking a look at Sol, we can see, I guess first off, just to explain it, for each of these little day boxes, this gray bar that runs across the whole thing, that's the 8 hours that we have configured in Tempo is the length of our workday. So we have a potential 8 hours that we can allocate to people for any given day. This little green bar represents the amount of time that they actually logged against this project, and the little orange bar is the amount of time we've planned for them. So for Sol here, we have planned 2 hours a day, every day this week, to work on a particular issue. We can see here when we click on this that it brings up the detail view. So this is the actual ticket. This is our API implementation. So we want Sol to make sure that he's staying on top of the development teams and know what's going on with them as we develop our API. So we plan 2 hours a day, every day. We can see from his work log note here that they were able to get things done a little bit quicker. Perhaps their meetings didn't take as long. He didn't have to spend as long going over the open issues or something like that. So it only took an hour and a half. So that's nice. We actually earned a little bit of time back. Right from here, we can also plan time for people. So again, we can choose the actual person. We can log it against a specific task. You can do it over a period of time. So again, there are 20 hours remaining in this particular task. So we have a 20-hour estimate, or at least the remaining work to be done on it is going to take 20 hours. We know that Linda is available for 8 hours a day. She's not allocated on anything else. So we can say we want her to spend half an hour or 30 minutes a day. And let's see, June 5th is today. So for the rest of this week, we'll have her spend 30 minutes a day working on it. So we can plan that time for Linda. And go from there. So projects, we can also develop things in teams. So again, we're looking at a relatively small set of people today. We only have really 4 actors that we're looking at. So what you're more likely going to do is break things up into your teams themselves, just so that they're more manageable chunks. When you look at a project, you may have 100 different assignees in there, and that's going to be a little bit difficult to look at. So by breaking them down into teams, we're able to keep functional groups lumped together and have an easier time managing the time that they're actually working on. So here you can see the time that we allocated for Linda for the next few days. The reason it didn't show up in the other project one is because we were looking at the wrong project. So it wouldn't show up in the small projects because we put it towards the EMP project. The other thing I didn't mention is that you can also plan time directly against the project, so you don't have to allocate someone to a specific task and say, this is the thing I want you to work on. You can just say, I want Sol to work, or actually, let's go with Evan. I want Evan to work on just this project for 5 hours a day. I don't care what he's doing in that project, so long as he's working on that project and seeing it through. Switching over into this report view, there's 1,000 different views, and we won't go through all of them, but I just wanted to show you this one. This one will break down by user, and then again by project, and then ultimately by the actual task they're working on, the amount of time that was estimated for it, how much is remaining, how much they worked on it, and if they had work planned for them, what their planned work was as well. So this is a nice report to get an overview of what people should be working on, what they're actually working on, and how much work you have left to do on these lower level tickets. And then finally, let's take a look at our dashboards. So Linda has created a relatively simple modification on the main system dashboard. Really all she's done is she added in a filter results gadget, which shows the pending projects. So these are project requests that she has put in for new features that she wants to see work their way into the application. So here she can look at the ones that she submitted and keep an eye on them. She can even edit this gadget and add, say, status. So by adding the status, you can see where is this issue in its workflow. So this one is currently in the new state. These two are currently being reviewed. That way you can see how much longer is it going to be before these things are actually developed or worked on or blessed for development. Assigned to me is just showing her things that are assigned to her, and then we again have the activity stream. If we switch over to Saul and we go look at his dashboards, he set his up a little bit differently. So he's not really as quite concerned with the kind of low-level exact detail of the tickets themselves. He really wants more a kind of aggregated view, a high-level look at what everybody is working on. So he has the Gantt chart add-on that we looked at the project level. He's also got the a timesheet integrated in, and he has a rapid board view as well. So just like in Tempo and in the Gantt chart add-on and within Greenhopper, how all these things are clickable, here they're clickable as well. You can't interact with the tickets here quite as much of moving them through their workflow, but they're all still clickable where you can go open the issue and look at them, and you can always jump to the rapid board and do whatever you want. But you can show and hide things here. You can drill down and find out, why do I have an issue here? What's the problem? What's going on in each of my different projects, and what does my Gantt chart look like, and scroll through it over time. Same thing with the timesheet. There are a number of different timesheet add-ons or gadgets that you can integrate into the dashboard as well. So in this way, you can build up nice comprehensive dashboards that give you kind of a one-stop shop, what's going on in my infrastructure and what do I need to be concerned with today. You can always drill down into the lower levels by switching over into JIRA or the Greenhopper interface and drilling down into the actual issues themselves. Or you can switch over to the project dashboard and look in more depth into the Gantt chart and your time tracking. There was one other thing I wanted to mention, but we're a little past it now. So I think at this point, I want to hand things back over to everybody else and see if there are any questions that you have that we can answer. If there are things I can demonstrate, I will. Otherwise, I'll just do my best to answer it.
Great, thanks, Chris. Let's see here. There's some questions. Question from Charles. When Chris was looking at the project fields for the expense management platform project, were the remaining and logged work fields showing data from the time tracking JIRA feature, or were these part of the fields that come with with Profields?
So it's a little bit of a two-part answer, I guess. The field itself that is doing the aggregation is a Profields field. So let me just pull this up and then I can talk my way through it a little better. So just like custom fields in JIRA, Profields has a number of different field types that it comes with. So this champion field is a user picker. This project status is a list, which is like a single select list, although the Profields one actually has a lot more intelligence. One thing I didn't really mention is that Profields will integrate with external sources like other databases and things like that. So you can actually define lists based on some SQL query from some other database in your infrastructure. All of these estimated budget, all these aggregation ones, this is a field type called a cumulative field. So with a cumulative field, you point it at some custom field that's on your tickets. So in the case of this burned budget, we have an expense field on one of our ticket types, and this is accumulating all of the expense amounts across all of the different expense tickets that we have in this project. The remaining and logged work are also cumulative fields, and what they're looking at is the original estimate, or actually really the remaining estimate, and the work logs that are actually built into JIRA itself, and it's accumulating all of that data and summing it up to be displayed here. So if we go and we log work on a ticket, or if we go and add a new expense, we'll see that these values automatically change here.
Okay, cool. Let's see. Another question from Charles. Is there any connection between the Gantt chart plugin and SharePoint project tasks?
SharePoint project tasks. That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that offhand. What I will say is that there is a connector for JIRA to SharePoint. I know the Confluence to SharePoint connector a lot better, but it's quite possible. So SharePoint's got a good API, and JIRA has a very robust REST API. So it's quite likely that the JIRA to SharePoint connector would facilitate something like that, because the Gantt Chart plugin is really taking your existing tasks that are in the system and building the Gantt chart from that. It's quite likely to also be able to take those tasks and link them into SharePoint tasks and keep those two things in sync. So you might have to bring in a third add-on to do it, but it is, at least I can at least believe that it's possible.
Very good. So a question from Antonio: Is the resource planning tab part of the Gantt plugin?
It is. Yep. So by installing that particular Gantt add-on, you will get this resource planning tab. And it, again, is just taking the information that is stored in the in your tasks themselves, and it's using that to generate this resource planning. Of course, it's not going to load on me now that I wanted to, but.
Okay.
Yep.
This question from Glenn: Does a Gantt tool require more detailed resource management or duration values for tasks, or can it be totally date-driven?
It can be totally date. It actually is totally date-driven. So things like the dependencies that we set up and whatnot, if you wanted to have a harder enforcement of that in JIRA, we would integrate conditions into the workflow to force that these dependencies are actually enforced. I didn't do that for this demo just for the sake of speed of setting it up, but that's all doable. So right now these are all just date-driven, and if I move them around, that's just going to go ahead and update that task, and that's going to actually go into that particular ticket itself and update its planned start and planned end dates.
Very good. Question from Jim: Can I use the Gantt and tempo views with more issue level hierarchy, say from a plugin like Structure?
That's also a good question. So I don't know the exact answer to that. I'm glad you brought up Structure, because I had actually wanted to mention that. One of the things I wanted to mention were the different levels of hierarchy you can get with JIRA out of the box. I don't know if Structure will play nice with the Gantt Chart plugin. Structure implements its own type of parent-child relationships amongst the issues, where JIRA just has a standard level issue or a standard level task and a subtask, and then you use the project and components and versions to get 2 additional levels of hierarchy. And with Greenhopper, you also have epics, which gives you a 3rd level. But Structure implements it a little bit differently, so I'm not sure that the Gantt Chart plugin would honor that. So I'd have to look into that to give you a solid answer.
Okay, great. Another question from Glenn. Regarding the plugins, can they be installed and integrated on the hosted version of Atlassian, or need to be on an internal host? What's the tipping point on knowing when to install in-house?
Yep, so that's a really excellent question. So I think they actually just announced JIRA Connect the other day, and what I believe JIRA Connect is the new plugin architecture. So hopefully I got that right. If I didn't, there's a new plugin architecture. But so at some point in the future, On Demand is going to be able to support a lot more add-ons than it's capable of supporting right now. Right now, there's a relatively short list that you're allowed to use in On Demand. Tempo is in that list, so you can use it. But things like this Gantt Chart plugin, I don't believe that Profields is available for On Demand either. So it's actually easier to look up the things that are allowed in On Demand and determine if that meets your needs, to make the determination if a hosted instance or a standalone instance is better for you. In general, most of the add-ons that are available in the marketplace today are not going to work in On Demand. But again, that will be changing in the near-ish future. There's no hard deadline for that yet, but Atlassian is changing the way that add-ons work so that they can be enabled for On Demand.
Okay, great. Another question from Jim: Will the Microsoft Project Connector support Microsoft Project Server?
Yeah, I believe it only supports Microsoft Project Server. I don't believe it can talk to kind of the desktop-only version of Project. So what you do is you point, Server and JIRA at each other, and you map what your project tasks, what metrics you're tracking in your project tasks, you map those to fields in JIRA issue types. And then anytime one thing changes in either of those systems, it'll be mirrored in the other system. So if you create a new task in project, that'll create a new ticket in JIRA and vice versa. If you update one, it'll update the other.
Cool. Question from Andre. We treat customers as projects in JIRA, and we have various projects for them. Are there examples of using projects within projects?
Yeah, that's actually how we manage a lot of our client projects. So we don't really use the classical kind of like dollar amount to determine if it's a small or a large project. We have come up with a methodology over the years that allows us to use a JIRA ticket type called an engagement. That's just what we call it, as the actual project, because we have a number of different phases that we go through as we're implementing a project, like discovery and activation, and all these different steps that we go through. So our projects themselves have a long life cycle. And before Profields was around, we didn't have a way of being able to really capture that in JIRA. So we've adopted this way of using a ticket as the token to track where in the project life cycle that particular project is. Then we create subtasks off of that for all the actual implementation tasks. So for a JIRA project, I need to stage the server and install JIRA and hook it up to the database, and my partner Joseph has to go out and do the actual discovery and create the design documentation. Our implementation team has to do all the setup. So we track all of that stuff as subtasks underneath a ticket itself. And that was a little bit what we're striving for in this small projects example, where each of these JIRA tickets is actually representing the project itself. So our Square app compatibility is an internal project that we are working on. So any subtasks that we have underneath that, so here our customer loyalty program has a number of subtasks underneath it. Those are the actual implementation tasks that we're using to implement this customer loyalty program project.
Cool. It's probably worth noting as an example, the customer loyalty program, it doesn't necessarily have to be an overly technical project. There's a lot of different activities and tasks that you can manage with this token that are not technical necessarily, but you can still move them through a workflow.
Right, that's a great point. We have customers that are digital ad agencies and similar things like that, or managing their vendors, doing things with JIRA that have nothing to do with software whatsoever. It's just a really great lifecycle management tool.
Very good. Question from Mark. When you moved an issue to done in Greenhopper, you got to choose between two states. How are those configured?
Sure. So that's I'll actually pull up the rapid board configuration just because well, maybe as a day-to-day user you might not do a lot of this. It really shows off a lot of the power of the rapid board. So first off, you define a JQL filter that says what stuff should be included in this board. So then, of course, you can go across multiple projects. You can get very fine-grained. You can be very broad in the stuff that you're looking at on a board. And you can have multiple boards that include the same tickets because different people might want to look at them in different ways. The way that we map our workflows to our columns is simply by just taking all the available statuses that we have. So for all of the workflows that are available in this project, these are all the different statuses out of those workflows. And I just map them to my columns however I want. So say as a developer, we actually want to go from development to a QA step before we actually finish. I can add a column here. I can call it testing if I want. And I can move resolved over here. So I've just changed my definition of done. One of the things we talk about a lot in Agile, but I think is applicable everywhere in JIRA, is really like, what are your definitions of everything? So here we have all of our different columns. So what's our definition of testing? As a developer, once I resolve a ticket, I'm considering that done. That's my definition of done. But as QA, a ticket that's been resolved is my definition of to do. So by simply moving our statuses around and adding and removing columns, we can change how our workflows map to the rapid board layout. And if we have really long workflows, say we have 3 or 4 development steps, 3 or 4 QA steps, some UAT steps, and so on, that's kind of too many columns to put on a board. So what we can do is, again, have when you reach the end of development, the developer's definition of done is QA's definition of to do. So when the developer drops a done development task in their done column, it pops up on the QA board in the to do column. They move it across their board. When they get to done, that pops up on UAT's board as a to do task, and then they go through their workflow. So the rapid boards really allow you to take large processes and break them down into manageable chunks. It allows you to take multiple processes and work them in the same place. And again, this really just comes down to JIRA and all of these add-ons, we showed you one specific example today. These are all very, very flexible tools, and you have a lot of room to customize them to match your processes and the way your company works.
Great. Quick question from Jim. Who provides the Gantt add-on?
Sure. I can't pronounce his name, so I'm just going to go to the marketplace and show you.
There it is. It's Pulchates.
Yep. So it's this one right here. So it's this fella. He's been an add-on developer for a really long time. This plugin has been around for a really long time. 34,000 downloads, really well rated. So there's no reason to think that as JIRA goes forward, he's not going to continue to support it. But as you can see, there's also a number of other Gantt Chart plugins, and these are all coming from other respectable companies as well. So they may have different features. They may give you different capabilities that you want. So you can check out all the different ones. The nice thing about them is that, well, if I was in the plugin manager, you'd be able to see it better. But the nice thing about all of the add-ons that are available in the marketplace is you're allowed to try them all before you buy them. So you don't ever have to commit to anything. You can try one, uninstall it, try another one, figure out which one you like before you have to commit to actually buying a particular add-on.
Cool. Thanks, Chris. Next question from Peter. Whose Gantt chart offers the resource planning functionality?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Of course. Whose Gantt chart offers the resource planning functionality?
Oh, understood. That was that first one that we looked at that Frank P. wrote.
Yep. Yeah, there's timing there. Okay, next one from Glenn. Is there any integration in general from JIRA to Team Foundation Server?
There is. There's a couple of different integrations. So, of course, TFS will do version control for you. So as a version control tool, you can use it just like you would use Git or Subversion or CVS or any of the other version control systems that are out there, where when you commit something into your version control system, you just reference the JIRA task that you're working on, and then that change set's going to get associated back to that task in JIRA. There's another actual connector which will do the same thing that we were talking about in project, where you take your TFS work items and you map them to JIRA tickets, to JIRA issues. So you define for these work items and these specific metrics that we're tracking in work items, these map over to this particular issue type in JIRA and these particular fields, and then it'll just keep the two things in sync.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Okay.
If there's no more questions, and I'll just add on to that, there's kind of two different main things you're usually looking at with external integrations. It's either migrating from some system to JIRA, or it's integrating the two together. So just keep that in mind also if you're looking around on the marketplace. Note whether a add-on is a connector, which connects two systems together, or if it's a tool for migrating from one system to another, because those are different use cases, and you approach them differently.
Okay, a couple more questions here.
Sure.
Jim again, does Profields support fields associated with a version level, rather than just a project level?
I believe it's just at the project level right now, but again, we don't have the newest version, and I'm still relatively new to Profields. I don't believe that they support version level right now, but we do have their ear, so we can at least send that request to them, see if they can implement it.
Cool. And another one from Jim. I noticed a planned start field. Which plugin produced that field?
Yep, so that's the Gantt Chart plugin as well. So it has a planned start date and a baseline start date, and then a planned end date and a baseline end date. And the baselines basically stay constant forever as well. And when you move the ticket around, if you saw when we were in that, I dragged the ticket and that changed the planned start date. So the baseline dates will always stay the same. The planned dates are what you're actually targeting currently. But again, that's just created out of the Gantt Chart add-on. So when you install add-ons, they may create dashboards, they may create fields. They'll do a number of different things depending on what they actually do for functionality.
Cool. Follow-up question from Andre to the projects within projects concept.
Sure.
Can you use all the plugins effectively with engagements? Example, time scheduling with Tempo and Gantt charts.
Right. So there is I'm glad you noticed that. There is a little bit of overlap, it seems like, with the Gantt chart and tempo time resource planning. I think you can still use them both very effectively. One thing that you can actually do, just a use case I was thinking about, is when you're going and planning work in tempo and saying, I want Jim to work on this particular task for 2 hours a day this week. The Gantt chart actually does all that math for you. So if you have a 2-week task, it's telling me right here that, well, it's not showing me as quite what I wanted in this view, but so what we were looking at before is just showing 3.2 hours per day is what you need to actually be doing in order to burn this task down in time. You can then use that information to go allocate people to that particular task so that it gets done in time. Greenhopper also has burn down capabilities and things like that. So there's a little bit of overlap, and you have to kind of figure out the best way to use each of the features out of each of these plugins to complement each other.
Cool. Let's see. One more question here from David. Can you have multiple Gantt chart views? For example, I would like to have an executive view to just display projects from a high level and separate views for development with more detail.
Yep. So I believe that there are a couple of different Gantt. I guess there's actually only one embeddable gadget. So this one right here is showing us, well, it has a number of different configurations. So yeah, you could put the same Gantt chart gadget. You can put multiple of them on a dashboard, and then you can just change the configuration of it so that it's showing you different information, and that would be how you would tackle that. So here, the Gantt bar label, you can pick a number of different metrics to use, and you can use either a filter or a project itself when you're configuring it. So you can refine the information that a particular Gantt chart gadget is looking at to get the view that you want. Well, great. Thank you all for your attention. Thank you for the great questions. I appreciate you being here today.
Well, very good. So just to close things up, a reminder, our next webinar is Effective Security Permissions Management for JIRA. That's scheduled for July 10th, 2013, 11 a.m. We'll send out an email and an invite to all the folks on our list. Also, you can contact us at contact@precipio.com. Any questions or any kind of things you may have. Love to help you out on your next project. And yeah, thanks so much, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Take care.